Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Real Chat with Kat, a podcast dedicated to offering a growth mindset platform where we entrepreneurs talk about business, mindset, and life in general, while sprinkling in some tips, tricks, and practical ways you can grow in your business. I'm your host, Catherine Polsinelli, owner of Agent Services Plus, a consulting company focused on helping you grow and build in your business. So grab a cup of coffee or your favorite beverage and get ready to have some awesome conversations and some amazing takeaways. So let's dive in. So I've got Mr. Walter.key with me today. Hello, Walt. Nice to see you.
Good to be here. Appreciate it.
So give us a little bit of background. You actually have a really interesting background, especially with being military and everything. So tell us, what you've done and how you got into real estate.
Sure. So the short answer is I'm just a schmuck in a Hawaiian shirt that likes to help people. 21 years in the Navy, knew for many, many years that I would do real estate after the Navy, but it was all about timing. When I decided to retire from the Navy, I decided to get started in real estate in order to grow a business over what I thought would be several years to supplement that change in income when I retired. And the first year I was in real estate, I made more money in real estate than the Navy paid me after almost 20 years of service. So I said, okay, this is going to work out just fine.
Okay.
And the rest is history. Built a great business in Virginia, helped a lot of agents, coached them along the way. And then kind of out of nowhere, my wife actually came back to Florida, where most of our family's at, for a family event. When she came back to Virginia, she said, that was so amazing being around the family. The kids got to meet the cousins. Maybe we should move to Florida. And I said, okay, let's move to Florida. And within a few months, I sold my real estate business in Virginia, moved to Florida, remodeled a lake house, and then moved the family up. And we just closed on one of our last houses that we've owned in Virginia last week.
Wow.
So we're slowly liquidating all of the Virginia holdings so we can start investing in Florida again.
Nice. I'm a little jealous because I'm a Floridian, so I want to be in the beach. I don't think my husband would move me down there though. So, I know that you also do coaching with people as well. Tell us a little bit about that and how you kind of use that along with your real estate. 'Cause I know that's a huge piece of what you enjoy doing too.
Yeah, I found out, I don't even know how many years ago it was now. It's kind of a natural evolution, I think. So you become a top producing agent. All of the other agents want to know what you're doing. And so I would go to coffee with other agents. I never pass up a chance for free caffeine. And I would just sit with them for 45 minutes, an hour, sometimes an hour and a half. And they would ask the same basic questions over and over. Well, how did you do this? And what about lead gen? And how should I do this? What should I do? Should I think about this? Should I think about that? And eventually I realized that almost all of the new agents were asking the same basic questions. So then I threw a quick YouTube video together and I just started sharing that on social media to say, hey, save yourself the hour and the coffee cup. Here's a video of all the questions. And that turned into me actually in Facebook groups teaching agents how to have better conversations with their sphere, with their past clients, with professionals to grow their business. And then someone at an amazing organization called W Income Coaching saw what I was doing and asked me to be a guest coach for them. And the rest is history. When I moved to Florida, I moved to the EXP model and I jumped into W Income Coaching. And now I do more coaching now than transactions because I just absolutely love it.
I love that. And I know that that's a huge part of what you do. And I know that if I'm not mistaken, you also coach teams, or you've gone and talked with brokerages, right, as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think teams especially, but now more than anything, I'm looking at brokerages because it's the same kind of story over and over, where many brokerages don't have any sort of formal business building training, right? Even great brokerages, there's nothing wrong with the brokers, right? Their training is, well, here's our contract. Here's our office policies. Here's how to walk through the Florida as is purchase contract. Well, that doesn't really teach an agent how to grow their business. It doesn't teach them how to scale efficiently. It doesn't teach them how to manage time and be disciplined in order to actually accomplish their goals. And so most brokerages, whether they're great people or not, most of them are great people, they lack a true training and coaching, element. And so I'm starting to talk to more brokers about helping them leverage what we've already built to teach their agents how to do better business. And it's good for the brokers, right? Who doesn't want their agents to be more productive and therefore increase the company's bottom line?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I feel like sometimes, being at a brokerage previous to this one as well, that like they had some really fantastic training. But what I realized was most of the people that actually run the brokerage have never been in real estate, or they were in real estate at one time, like a long time ago, but they haven't done it in so long that they've almost kind of like disconnected the understanding of what it's like to be a newer agent that needs that foundation and those platforms to then figure out what it means to be a business owner.
No, definitely. I think what you find is brokers who were good agents years ago and decided they wanted to run their own brokerage. They built their business a certain way in a certain era, and not all of that applies anymore. And there's so many different ways to build a great business now with technology, with social media, with just the massive expansion of ways that we communicate with each other, that the more traditional models of growing a business aren't necessarily the only model that works. And, again, it's not the broker's fault. They simply don't know what they don't know because they're detached from the daily grind at this point.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I know that, social media has become a huge thing. And I think, to be honest, that's a big thing across a lot of platforms, like a lot of different entrepreneurs, whether you're like in coaching or consulting or, small business owner, but your business is completely online. I think that's a big change that we are seeing is there are so many new ways now that you don't have to do the old cold calling, or the emails that you send out to 5,000 people hoping that someone gets back to you. It's interesting, with the other people that I've talked with as well, like how people are really starting to learn what their niche is and really starting to dive into that, which in my personal opinion seems to be taking people a lot quicker in their business to be able to get to a point that they want to be, instead of, like you were saying, you thought it was going to take you several years to really get in to have some type of difference.
Yeah, I call that prospecting for your personality type. Right. I can teach an agent how to do what I did, but if that doesn't align with their personality type, their communication style, their business philosophy, if it doesn't feel right and connect with who they are as a person, they're not going to enjoy doing it. And therefore, they're probably less likely to do it, or they're not going to do it as efficiently. And so I always like to start a coaching session with, let's talk about who you are. Let's talk about the ways you like to communicate. And then let's find the strategies that best align with who you are, because those you'll enjoy doing. And if you enjoy it, you'll do it more. And if you do it more, you will absolutely build your business longer, harder, faster. And you'll wake up one day going, I absolutely love what I've created.
Yeah.
Because it makes sense for you. And so that's kind of a downside to a lot of mainstream coaching programs is it's one person's philosophy on how to do lead generation, marketing, et cetera, as opposed to let's talk about all the different ways you can do this well. And then let's devise a plan to put maybe 2 or 3 of these that best align with who you are on your calendar in an efficient way so that you can go execute what makes sense to you.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I love it you talking about as far as the perspective, because I think that also plays into people's goals as well, right? Like not everybody's goals are the same. And I do feel like a lot of industries across the board, whether it's real estate or MLM or small business owners or online, they always seem to push, and this is just my opinion, right? They always seem to push like the top of the top people, like the 1%, which is great to an extent. But then for those that, let's say, are just trying to replace their income, right? Or want to start a college fund for their kids, that person that's way up there doesn't necessarily align with them. So just like you were saying, their goals don't align. And then more than likely what they're doing in their business is also not going to align, because that may be a lot more work than somebody wants to put in as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny when you take, you're right, it's any industry, it's not just real estate, any business, any industry. The first ones to become, the top 1%, almost always they become the model. And so you simply tell people, this is what they did. It worked for them. Go do it. Go replicate this.
Yeah.
And again, that's right for a portion, but it's not right for the majority. And so it definitely helps to be able to get on a personal level and help them understand where they want to go and then move them in that direction in a more methodical and deliberate way.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with being the top 1%, but not everybody wants to be the top 1%.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody wants to do what the top 1% did in order to achieve their success. There's different ways to do it.
Yeah, very true. I love that. And I know that we kind of, like you said, I asked you some questions prior to, and so I'm curious if you can go into some. You gave me three things that kind of helped you in creating success in your business. So what would you attribute your success to? What do you feel like helped get you there?
So I think first and foremost, without fail, any business owner, time management and properly laid out goals are the foundation of your business. Right? Before marketing, before lead generation, before you're servicing the sale, you have to know, where do I want this to go? What's my big strategic vision for my life and my business? And then you can use that strategic vision to break it down all the way into a yearly goal, a monthly milestone to keep you on track for your yearly goal. Then you start breaking down to, okay, now that I know where I want to go, let's talk time management. How do I do the individual steps on a repeatable and disciplined basis to move me in that direction? So the time management becomes critical, knowing that you need to leverage technology, put things actually on your calendar, and then hold yourself accountable to what you chose to be successful at makes a world of difference. And then I always talk a little bit about the disciplined approach, right? And part of that is the military background, right? Part of that is being a cool guy, jumping out of air things, blowing stuff up. Discipline's a thing for us. And I truly believe that made a world of difference in my business because I didn't know any better. I have a job. I'm going to execute. That's it. I had no excuses. Well, I don't feel good today. I'm not going to make the calls. I'm not going to do the lead gen. You just go to work. And so many people confuse discipline with motivation. And so you hear that all the time, like, oh, that was motivating. I'm motivated. Motivation is so BS. It is fickle, and it requires an outside force acting upon a person to make them motivated, right? Motivate me. Well, I don't need to be motivated if I build the discipline to execute what I choose to win at, right? So you start with what is the goal here? What's the long term? Where am I moving to? And then what are the individual steps that move me there? I don't need to be motivated at 5 o'clock in the morning to get up and go run. If I'm training for a marathon, I know I have to do these runs in order to execute the goal of the marathon. Right? Business is no different, right? If I have a long-term picture of where I want to go, I have to be disciplined in doing the individual daily activities that move me in that direction. And, you can be motivated. There's nothing wrong with being motivated, but motivation will fade in an instant. Any little change in circumstances will kill your motivation. The discipline is based on repeatable execution of habits that will move you in the direction you want to go. And so you have to have that disciplined approach.
I definitely agree with that. And I want to backtrack when you were talking about setting your goals and then taking those goals and then refining it and breaking it down all the way to how you can do that from a daily standpoint. What would you say if somebody said, well, I mean, I got a lot of goals. Well, where do I start? Do you suggest that they start with their money goals, or do you suggest they start with personal, or how would you take someone from that standpoint to kind of help them figure it out?
Whether it's money, whether it's business, whether it's personal, I like a construct of what I'll call reverse engineering. Don't start with, this is what I want to do tomorrow. Right. And a lot in real estate, as an example, a lot of times what we do is we say, well, I know conceptually I should have an annual goal. I should have some metric to track. And so what we'll do is we'll say, well, I did this last year. Therefore, anything better than that is a good goal. I'll just make a goal based on what I did last year. Well, that's crap. Because you cheat yourself out of so much potential that you could have gained. So I tell people, cast a strategic vision over your business. Think 3, 4, 5 years in the future and get detailed with it. What does that look like for you? If everything goes exactly your way in the next 5 years, where are you at? What are you doing? Who are you with? How have your finances changed? How have your personal relationships changed because of maybe you're out of debt, maybe you bought a boat, maybe you're traveling more, maybe you're taking your wife out somewhere on a regular basis. What does that 5-year strategic vision really start to look like? That's an area worth moving towards, right? If I say, well, I did 8 deals last year, so I'd like to do 12 next year. Right? Sure, you could. But if I said to myself, in 5 years, this is what I want my business to be, and it's amazing and it's grand, and I've built this all life. Well, how do I walk towards that? And so then you start breaking it down. You reverse engineer that end result, and you say, now I know if I'm going to be there in 5 years, I have to set some pretty audacious yearly goals, right? So 12 deals isn't going to get me there. I need to do 20 deals. I need to do 30 deals. I need to do 40, whatever it looks like for them. That's how you build out an annual goal. Never plan off the destination, or I'm sorry, never plan off the departure point. Always plan for the destination, right? If you're planning off where you're already standing, you're not going to move very far. You got to plan off the long term where you want to go and get going. And then from that big annual goal, basic math, divide it by 12, you have a monthly milestone. That's something else that most agents miss, is they'll set a yearly goal and they won't look at it again for 8 or 9 months. And as that end of year starts coming around, usually third quarter of the year, they look at their goals and they realize, I am not even close. Well, now it's too late to get back on track. If you have a monthly milestone, it's an easy checkpoint every month to say, did I accomplish what I needed to accomplish last month to keep me on track for that goal? And am I on track this month to hit those numbers? Now, if not, I still have time to course correct. I can look at my daily activities and say, these daily activities are not moving me where I want to go quickly enough. And so 2 things have to happen. I either need to do more daily activities, or I need to learn to get better at them so I can increase the ROI on the time I am spending. And that monthly milestone is wild, because what happens is people set a big goal and then 2 months later they go, this ain't cutting it. Now let me pause, let me refine, let me add. Do I add something? Do I refine something? Do I talk to somebody about how I get more disciplined and I execute more often? Because I realize, like, what I put on paper sounds great, but I'm not actually doing it. I'm letting all of these other little shiny objects distract me from what I know I need to do to build my success. And that gives you the time to be flexible and make those adjustments and get back on track to still hit that yearly goal. And so 5 years later, you have this wild success that you look back on and go, I know that this wild success was literally a result of the individual things I was doing hour by hour, day for day, moving me in that direction.
No, I love that. That's a fantastic breakdown. And I think that honestly that applies with whatever you're doing in the entrepreneurial world, because you have to have not only your yearly goals, but your monthly goals. And then you have to be able to break it down, like you said, and reverse engineer it. Now, something that I struggle with and I've worked on a lot with, and I'm curious to know your opinion on it as well, is something that I hear a lot, and I recently just heard it from Tony Robbins, is we overestimate what we can do in 1 year, but we underestimate what we can do in 5. And so you were talking about setting your goals for, let's say, 3 to 5 years out. How do you help, or how would you suggest helping someone to understand where they could actually potentially be in, let's say, that 3 to 5 year mark versus that 1 year, so that they are thinking big enough? Because I know I personally struggled with it as well. When my coach first was like, what do you want to do in 10 years? I looked at her like she was crazy, because I was like, I don't even know what I want to do this year.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Most people, and maybe it's a societal thing, I don't know, are so short-sighted these days. We live in a world of instant gratification. If I want something, I can have it now. I don't want to have to grind it out. I don't have to wait. I don't have to work for it. And so when you start talking to people about anything, really anything past a yearly goal, but even sometimes the yearly goal can be difficult. When you start talking about long-term strategic goals, it's hard. I mean, sometimes they'll gloss over. And so that's why I always bring it back to, don't just put a metric on it, right? Don't say in 5 years, I want this much of whatever.
Yeah.
Paint the picture, right? never mind the money, never mind the closings, never mind the metrics. What do you actually want your life to look like? And so, for I use an example. Like for me, I'm just a schmuck in a Hawaiian shirt living on a lake here in Florida. So in 5 years, 4 years now, because I just turned 41. So now my 5 year goal has moved to 4. I'm sitting on a pontoon boat in my private lake with my golden retriever sitting at my feet. My 9-year-old is now a teenager fishing and splashing around. There's no debt. There's no transactions. My cell phone is probably not even on. And the only thing I'm doing is helping agents build their business. Mine is already solidified. And so as you start to get granular with those things and you realize, like, no kidding, what's it all for? Like, what's the point of me waking up every day and grinding if there's not something that I want to accomplish, or some lifestyle I want to put in place? And from there, you start to say, okay, well, what does it take for me to be completely debt free, not having to do transactions to get paid, sitting on a boat with my wife and kids and the dogs, just enjoying life? What do I need to actually, what does that look like? And so you start saying, well, I got to get all this debt paid off. That's this much. I have to be able to generate enough passive income to fund my lifestyle, which is going to be this much. That big strategic vision makes it a lot clearer on what you need to walk towards, as opposed to just saying, I want to be debt free and have money. There's not a lot of teeth to that, right? Everybody wants to be debt free and have lots of money.
Right.
Why? And what does it truly look like? Like, we ran an exercise recently. I went out to Canada and did an absolutely amazing little mini retreat with about a dozen or so agents. And one of the things we talked about were, how much money would you need every month to be comfortable? How much money would you need every month to have choices? And then what's that number where if you could make that much money in a month consistently, it would feel like absolute freedom to you. You could do anything you wanted to do. You could be wildly generous with charities, with whatever is important to you. And it's amazing how many people, when they first looked at those numbers, they went, I need this much. And you kind of, are you sure you can do everything you want to do in life and be generous? And you said you wanted to be generous, and you want to give, and you want to support charities, and you want to build an orphanage, and you want to do this, and you want to work. Do you really think that's enough? And by the end of the week, people had refined those numbers, and some of them, tripled their numbers.
That's crazy.
So a little bit of that nitty gritty will help them refine where they really need to be. And so then when you start making annual goals, the annual goals should be incredibly audacious, because you have a longer term thing you're moving towards. But here's the beautiful thing about a wildly audacious goal: if you miss it, you still had a stellar year. Right? So as opposed to the simple analogy of, well, last year I closed 10 deals as a new agent, therefore I'll do 15. That sounds great. It's a 50% increase, but is 15 deals a year going to absolutely change your life in 5 years? No, it is not. As opposed to, how many deals a year do I need to close to pay off all my debt in 2 years, to buy me a nice new boat, to put me in a position to have money that I'll never have to work for again? I need to be doing 400%, not 50% more deals this year. And if you aim for that and you only do 30, well, shucks, you literally did twice as much as you would originally planned to do. So it's okay to miss the goal, as long as you've built the goal big enough that missing it is still crushing it.
Yeah, very true. And I feel like as well, like, even if you miss it, like you said, you're so close to it that you already know that you can do it, right? So then you should be able to actually push yourself for the goal for the following year to be even bigger, because you already know where you can get, because you pushed yourself originally, which in my opinion really opens up your understanding in your mind. And something that I recently heard, which I thought was really interesting, was, as children, we're taught to use our imagination, right? All the time. Dream big, color stuff, right? Draw out everything that you want, how big you want your house to be, or any of that, right? But then as we grow into adults, we are stuck in this box of, what is present, what is in front of you, and what are your limitations. And so I was listening to this podcast, and this gentleman was talking about how you really should take time to use your imagination as an adult. They said that that really helps bring into perspective the things that you could actually do. It gets your mind going, it gets your gears working, and it helps you start to see the possibilities versus where most people are, where, like you said, you ask them their goals and they just kind of glaze over because we don't know how to use our imagination anymore. We don't know how to dream for what it is that we want anymore. So, and something that my coach told me when I was working with her was take your goals and write them out. And she said, make it like a story. She's like, no, don't just bullet point it, make it a story, give it in detail. If you know that you're going to be here, what is it going to look like? What color is the car? She's like, put it in detail. She's like, play with the imagination. And then you go back to that. And she said, what you'll realize is when you read over that, you get that feeling, you get those sensations. It lets you know what it's going to be like when you get there, which then pulls into your passion as to why you want to get there, which, like you said, is way over motivation, where motivation can peter out. Now you've got a passion, now you have a fire, now you have determination, which you can use to help get you to that spot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's it exactly. And then you can take that a step further. And once you've built out that strategic vision and you've got that wild, audacious goal of where you want to be, you can write out an affirmation that aligns with that long-term goal. And you can read it every single day. Put it on your computer. Like mine is on the desktop of the background of my computer screen. Every single morning when I turn on my laptop for the first time, the first thing I do is I read it out loud to myself. And I start ingraining what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and where I'm going into my noggin. So it's not well, let me review this in a quarter. Every single day, I know what I'm striving for. I know why I pick up the phone. I know why I engage on social media. I know why I'm coaching agents. Every single day, I reaffirm what I'm moving towards in a way that keeps me disciplined and it keeps me passionate about why I do what I do. If you make a goal and you never look at it, you wasted your time.
True.
Right? It's like writing out I use a marathon analogy because I'm a former marathon runner. There were days where I'd have to run 80 miles a week. And then I biked on top of that. I was doing triple digit mileage in a week. Well, if I write that 13-week marathon plan out and I never actually go grind the 6-mile run that turns into an 8-mile run, that eventually turns into a 15-mile run, that will ultimately turn into a 26-mile run, what's the point, right? I can say I want to run a 2.5 hour, 3-hour marathon, but if I don't put in the hours day for day, line item by line item, mile by mile, I'm not going to get there. And looking at it, I used to print mine and put it on the fridge. So every single day, I know exactly what I'm doing today. I know exactly what I'm doing tomorrow. And I know exactly where this is leading me when I accomplish what I want to accomplish. And you can do the same thing with your business. You can write out your goals. Financially, you can write out your goals. Personally, if you have a fitness goal, right, write it out in such a way that you've already accomplished it. Right. That's the beautiful thing about an affirmation. If you write it well, it's not I hope to, I want to, I might. It's I am, I did, I have. Right. And you write that out. So as you read it, you are constantly affirming what you've chosen to be your future success. And it will keep you passionate about achieving it for sure.
I love that. And it's kind of like those that use vision boards. I mean, that's essentially the same thing. It's just, it's a written goal board, but that's the same thing when people say to create a vision board, put the visions that you want, whether it's traveling or losing weight or whatever the case may be, and then put it somewhere where you see it every single day. And statistics say that when you see that constantly, you'll actually get to your goals a lot quicker than if you just wrote it down somewhere, put it in a drawer, and then come back to it periodically. You being able to see it is constantly reaffirming, like you said, and keeping it in your mind, keeping it present versus letting it fall back. And then you get stuck in all the other crap, right? All the other mess.
Exactly. Yeah. It's so much easier to get sidetracked and distracted and make excuses when it's not the forefront of your mind. And there's plenty of other stuff that'll jump into the forefront of your mind if something else isn't already there.
Yeah. So
absolutely.
true. I am so guilty of that one. So I have two questions for you. I always love to ask everybody before the end of it. My first one is, what is there a tip or some piece of advice that you would love to pass on to people, whether it's personal, business, whatever the case may be, to share with the audience?
Oh goodness. So something that transcends real estate and anybody can grab a hold of. One of my favorite sayings, imperfect action will achieve more than perfect inaction every single time. If you're thinking about doing something, you're looking to start a business, you're looking to start running, you will have a fitness goal, you have a financial goal, whatever you have, just start doing something that moves you in that direction. You will never have the perfect plan. You will never have every single detail laid out that will never deviate and never change. Just start taking action to move you in the right direction. And that imperfect action will be refined as you go. If you wait for perfection, you'll never start.
So true. So true. And the second one was, I was going to ask about a quote, but you already gave that to me, because I love to end with something that's positive. Do you have another quote that you use, or if not, we can totally end on that? Because I absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. I cheated. I put the quote first.
You got 2 for 1. No, it's fantastic.
I'll throw you another quote out here that ties in well with that. This is a Thomas Edison quote, one of my favorite quotes in all the world. Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. You have to go to work to build the success you want to have. Nobody's going to hand it to you. There is no magic pill. There is no secret code. Go to work, build the success you want to have.
I love that. I love that. It's a neat perspective for people to understand, that I know that's for everyone, right? I feel like, yes, every once in a blue moon, somebody has some connection somewhere that helped jumpstart, but for most of us, yeah, you definitely have to put the work. And to be honest, putting the work in really helps you appreciate it, so that when you do get to those goals, when you do meet them, you appreciate it a lot more. Not saying that those that, got to skip forward don't, but for a lot of us, right, when you have to start from a bottom area and move your way forward, it really does ingrain what it is that you did and be appreciative of it. And then you want to share it with other people.
Absolutely. No doubt.
I love that. So where can everybody find you, Walter? Where can we
I'm all over the place. If you put in walter.key in Google, my first name is Walter, which nobody has anymore. My last name is Key, which I was literally born for real estate. I'm all over the place. The easiest way to reach out to me if you have questions, or if you need something, walter.key@gmail.com, walter.key@gmail.com. I got in on the ground floor, so I didn't have to have any silly characters or numbers. That's the easiest way to find me.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time and all of your knowledge. And for everybody out there, I hope you got some amazing takeaways from today's session, and understand that the keys to success have a lot of different components to them, but definitely making sure that you have goals and that you are disciplined within those goals is going to be a huge thing for you, and being sure that you are making one step every day toward that goal instead of waiting for everything to be perfect. So to everybody out there, I hope you guys have a fantastic day. And until next time, we will see you then. Mwah. Hello again, and thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you absolutely love what you heard, please be sure to share, subscribe, and don't forget to leave me a comment or review so that I can keep the good stuff rolling. If you haven't yet connected with me on social media, be sure to follow along at Agent Services Plus. I am so excited to connect with you until the next episode. And until next time, be sure to find something that helps you learn, grow, and be inspired.